This video is about three-dimensional figures. So a three-dimensional figure is called a solid. When a solid is formed only by polygons, it is called a polyhedron. A prism and a pyramid are examples of a polyhedra. To name a prism or a pyramid, we're going to name the shape by its base. So let's look at a couple of general terms for 3D shapes. The first is a base. So a base and a prism are the two shapes that are the opposite and the same. So in this rectangular base, it would be the top side and the bottom side. And in this triangular prism, it would be the top triangle and the bottom triangle. Your bases are not always going to be on the top and the bottom of the shape, so you need to pay attention to what has the two solid shapes. In a pyramid, it's always the side that is across from our vertex. A face is a flat polygonal surface. So these sides that are connecting the bases in the pyramid would be our faces, in our prisms that are connecting the bases, or these triangle sides that are going up from the squares. An edge is a segment where two of the faces intersect. So all of these lines that we see, these black lines of the shape, those would be our edges, and then our vertices would be the corners of our shape where three or more edges are meeting each other. Solids that have curved surfaces are not going to be called a polyhedron. So these are shapes like this. This right here is a cylinder, a cone, and a sphere. So when we are looking at 3D shapes, we can find three different things. The first one is the lateral surface. The lateral surface is the sum of all the lateral face area. It does not include the bases. So in a prism, all of our lateral faces are always going to be rectangular. And in a pyramid, the lateral faces are always going to be a triangle. The second thing that we can find is surface area. So surface area is the sum of all the lateral face area and the area of the bases. Remember that in a prism or a cylinder, we are going to have two bases, while in a pyramid or a cone, we are only going to have one base. In a sphere, because it has no bases, because it's just round, the lateral area and the surface area are going to be equal to each other because they are the same since there's no bases that we have to include. And then the last thing is the volume, which is the number of cubic units that fit inside a solid. And it's cubic because we're multiplying 3 dimensions to get our volume. So some of our solids can be generated by rotating a 2-dimensional figure around a line, which is called the line of symmetry. So what solids are formed by rotating these shapes? So the first one is rotating a rectangle. So if I take a rectangle and I go all the way around from each corner, those are making circles. And if I connect those, this is creating a cylinder because it has a round base at the top and bottom. This is a cylinder then. In number 2, this point's going to stay in place because it's just on that line. The second one is going to go around in a circle, and this time it only has one circular base, so this time it's going to create a cone. The last one is a semicircle that when I rotate around is going to create the other half, which is going to look like a ball, which creates a sphere. So the three solids that can always be generated by rotations are going to be cylinders, cones, and spheres. Unfortunately, we cannot generate a prism or a pyramid by rotating a two-dimensional figure. Because when we are rotating a two-dimensional figure, we're rotating in a circle, and pyramids and prisms don't have circular bases. So we can also take a solid and cut it to create a cross section. By taking a cross section, we are essentially taking a slice by intersecting it with a plane. So let's give it a try. We want to know what happens when we do a horizontal and a vertical cross section. So remember, a horizontal is a side to side and a vertical is an up and down. So this is a rectangular prism. If I was to take something and cut it horizontally, so parallel to the top base, I'm going to get the same shape, which is still going to be a rectangle. So if I was to cut like this, I would get a rectangle. If I was to cut vertically with the other base, so if I was to cut vertically this time, I would get the same shape of a rectangle. In number 5, if I was to cut horizontally, so parallel to the base, well, since the base is circle, when I cut across, I also get a circle. When I go vertically across, think about if you cut a cake in half, the shape that you are going to get is a rectangle. Number 6, we have a sphere that if I cut it horizontally, like we can see with this cross section here, that's creating a circle. So our horizontal shape is going to be a circle. If I do it vertically, remember that since it's a circle, think about cutting like a ball in half, it's still going to be a circle. So both of these cross sections are circles. Number 7, if I cut horizontally, I'm going to be parallel to my base, and since my base is a square, I'm going to get the same shape, which is still a square. If I cut vertically, so if I cut like this, I would get a triangle. Number 8, if I cut horizontal to the base, the base is a circle, so when I cut horizontally, I still get a circle. And when I cut vertically, so if I cut a cone in half, my shape is going to be a triangle. The last one for this prism, if I cut horizontally, I'm cutting horizontal and parallel to the lateral faces, which are rectangles. So when I cut horizontally, I'm still going to get a rectangle. When I cut vertically, I'm cutting parallel to the base, and the base in this case has 6 sides, so it's a hexagon, so I'm still going to get a hexagon when I cut vertically somewhere else.